Welcome back. For this episode I'm working on someone's Armourer customs. So this is a Glock 18 I've previously worked on, and I'd put a steel hammer set in it. However, there were lots of problems with it, and now the hammer set isn't engaging properly. There's something definitely not right there. I've got a few ideas of what it could be. I've also bought some spare parts and replacement parts. So let's have a look-see first. So I'm going to strip it and have a look at the hammer mech. There we go, let's get those bits out. What I'm actually interested in is the hammer mech, but I'm also going to replace the trigger bar because I am not convinced I did a good job of that last time, and I can't help myself but make good on a job I've done. So yeah. There we go. Make sure you catch that spring. It's worth noting, the guy Rich who sent me this, we had a little joke about these disconnector springs disappearing into the ether, and he's been kind enough to send me 2 extra, so I really do appreciate that. Oh, the other thing I'm supposed to be doing for him, and I'll do that first, is I'm supposed to be changing over his hop rubber. I don't really see anything wrong with the existing one, but he wants a pink flamingo, so we'll give him a pink flamingo. So with these TTI hop units, you undo that bar. There you go. Then this will go out that way. In preparation, you want to make sure that this is all level. So I'm gonna, I think it's that one. I'm gonna make sure that this is wrong way. There we go. That's all right. Oh, he's giving me a short stroke as well. Right, that can go in the bag. That can go in there. Now I'm going to get some oil to make sure this all goes on properly. You want to take a little bit of silicone oil and just rub it on the outside of the hop rubber and just on the edges there. The reason for that is that this is quite tight, and it will make sliding it in easier. There we go. So that's been easy. Now you put this in, make sure you get it the right way, so there's like a little tab there that goes in the direction of the rear. Oops, oh, now I've got silicone all over my hands, it's slippery. There you go. If you get that right, it will snap in place, it's quite satisfying. You then tighten this back up. Now there is a bit missing here, which wasn't me. there should be a retaining pin that goes in there, and I would recommend installing that because it stops the grub screw from backing back out after use. There you go. There you go. I'm going to leave the short stroke out for now. So yeah, so I need to get this out. And last time I did this, I got the wrong side, and I ended up launching the pin across the room. It took me ages to find it. So this time around, learning my lesson. There we go. Pin out, not damaged. I've got a brand new trigger bar. So this one, there we go. So these should be pretty much identical. So yeah, that's a TTI semi-sear. Right. So there we go. Pin can go back there. Semi-sear can go in. There we go. This, you see a spring go in there, and then there you go. So that's all sorted. That now is completely steel. Just look for no cracks in the frame. So now we can put this back together. Your spring that disappears. That can go there. And let's put all of that back in. What I'm going to do is to minimize the amount of work I've got to do, I'm going to only partially reassemble it, because all I really need is the trigger to prove that it does what it should. Put that back in. Screw back in. Put the pins back into that one, goes there. This one, what you can do is use the screwdriver to guide the pin back in. So there you go. That's gone in. Safety has been engaged. There you go. Right, that looks promising. The next test is with the slide on, to see whether the slide's doing all the right things. There you go, so that's there. So, recoil rod. Let's put the slide catch on as well. Oh, I've basically put it all back together, haven't I? Me saying that I'm trying to minimize the... In fact, actually, I shouldn't need to. So there you go. So as long as that locks. Interesting that the... So that trigger's still not resetting properly, and I don't know why. So what should happen is you pull the trigger, comes back, and it resets. But it's... Oh, maybe it has. Let me... It's still not... I suspect as well, putting the short stroke in here is going to make it worse. So we'll have a look. Still doing it, isn't it? So if you ever find yourself in this problem, what you want is a tool to shim the hammer like that. So I did a little bit of problem solving, and I tried a few different hammer sets in here, and they all worked fine, but they were all getting the same auto problem on semi that I was getting with this steel set. And then I went back to the stock hammer set and it started full autoing as well. Now we know that this stock hammer set was good. When I last worked on this, that hammer set was in working condition, which led me to think that the problem was not with the hammer set. So after convincing myself that this is all working fine, I started looking at the slide. Now I found a few things which I'm going to fix. I found, well, that I have fixed rather. I found that this screw, this sight post, the rear sight post, the screw is threaded, so I've re-tapped it for an M3. I've also shimmed the selector here so that it properly engages the trigger bar, because that's one of the problems, was that it wasn't hitting the trigger bar. So all of the problems I was actually seeing in this hammer set was actually because this was loose and it wasn't hitting the trigger bar. So lesson learnt there, guys. I really dislike Glock 18s because they're so complicated, but that when loose can do a whole load of weird things like semi-auto on full auto, and it was all because of stripped screws. So I've done that, I've shimmed this to get a better engagement. I've shimmed this plate as well, because if you leave this plate tight against the selector plate, then the selector plate won't move. So this all moves fine. Even though this is as tight as it will go, there's no movement on the blowback unit. It's all solid. So yeah. Eventually, that part will go, or the trigger bar will go, and you'll have to replace them, at which point I recommend replacing this with steel. And the only option you got for this is a Garda one, which is aluminium, so that will always wear through at some point, which is unfortunate, but it should be very slow wear. So yeah. The nozzle return spring is damaged. I don't think it's ever been fitted properly, and I can see it there. So what I'm going to try and do is get it out without having to completely disassemble the blowback unit, because getting the blowback units out of these G18s is not fun and prone to missing pieces. There you go. So that is the spring. As you can see, a bit of it's damaged, a bit of it's down here, so that's probably snapped off. So I'll probably repair that and put a new spring on. So yeah, once that's done, it'll all be back to working order. I'll get you some videos once I've finished doing this repair. I've got to figure out how to get this out of the spring. Right, so I'm just gonna, I can bin that, it's no good. Ow. That's probably a decent one. Maybe see if I've got any. That one's wrecked as well. There we go. That's the one. So now you can place it back in the hole, let it drop in, and then you can use a screwdriver, a flathead preferably, just to slot it back in place. And there you go. So that's all back. That's there. Just put all my spare springs away. So here we go. So the only problem I've got now is, as you can see, the selector isn't working because it's over tightened slightly. So I've just got to back it off until, there you go, that's the right tension. There we go. So yeah. Do this the hard way. So when you take these out, you've got to be fairly careful that you don't lose that. Because if you lose that, it is a massive pain. think it's because that's not long enough, so I'll have to find a longer okay. That should do the job. There you go. That's good. I forgot this bit, which might be a bit annoying. There we go. That can all go there. So that goes there. That sits there, and then there you go. So it sits in place properly. When making these shims, it's advisable to use plastic and not something like paper, because paper will eventually disintegrate under the lubricant, but also it might expand, and you might find that the depth at which you've shimmed changes because of the choice of material you've used. So it might expand, and then all of a sudden, for example, your selector arm is now too far extended, and that's causing issues in itself. So you just got to be careful. I reckon I use like the backs of stickers, the laminate bit of stickers that they provide you with, because there's loads of it, and it's equal. It tends to be a non-absorbent plastic, so easy to use. Is a shim, if I've got a large enough one, which I might. The job. So you put that in there, carefully align it, put this on, and then in theory, if we've done this all right, there you go. I might just do for one more so you can tighten it down better. There you go. So it's now solid. So I've just used 2 shims, maybe 0.6 of a millimetre, just to space it off. Nozzle's good, it's all returning nicely. So I got rid of the plastic shims out of the cover plate and used metal shims instead. I think they're gearbox shims or something like that, but they do the job. And now, as you see, works perfectly. So I'll have to do some dry fire videos later, but selector works exactly as expected. And we get the right trigger response, so trigger resets, trigger resets, trigger resets, trigger resets. There you go. So that's how you do it. I've not kept that broken bit. Decided not to glue it. So yeah, in sort of summary of this, so what I've had to do is replace the spring. I've knocked that, haven't I? Replace the nozzle spring, replace the screw, retap the sight, shim this so that the selector works properly, and now it's done. It's sort of lucky timing that the customer sent me this, as based on the testing that I did, that selector and that screw were going to fail basically any week or any day in the near future. So I suspect that without doing that hammer replacement, he would have seen the full auto failing probably next game day or second game day after that. Depends on how many rounds he puts down on the game day, but I saw it fail within sort of 4 or 5 magazines, so I expect that he would have seen it fail soon as well. What I'm going to do as well is just tighten this. That's as tight as it will go. That's really loose. But I'm going to put a shim in that as well, so that that sits nice and tight, because that's all wobbly. So what we do, we'll get a nice thick shim. 1/2 mil. That'll probably be enough. So I've forgotten the size of these shims, but I buy them specifically because they fit in the little sight countersunk screw hole that's there. There you go, we're done. That's all it needed, was 1/2 mil so that the screw could tighten on properly. So yeah, I'll have to do some more testing at a sociable hour because it's quite late here and my kids are asleep. I've forgotten this bit. So yeah, that's all done. Thank you for watching. Right, so I've got some gas. I'm using some propane with a BavTac adapter. There you go, out of gas. And now the mag's freezing cold as well, so I won't be able to get another shot out of it. But semi-auto is completely fixed. Yeah, all done. With the semi-auto fixed, I'll be able to send it back to the customer now. It should work for a while longer. As I've said in an earlier section of the video, I think the next bit to go is probably going to be that selector there. That's the weakest part basically. You've got steel parts there. That trigger bar might go as well. A Garda steel trigger bar will probably do the job. So yeah, thanks for watching.